They might not represent this understanding in a way that you personally resonate with. You see, there's also something that I find interesting is, I don't care so much about what one says. I care more about the way they live and how willing they are to let this understanding penetrate into all layers of their experience. How deep are they willing to penetrate love into all aspects of their life? And if you look at some what we would consider to be sages, they don't let that penetrate very far, in my point of view. That's just my opinion, right? It doesn't seem to penetrate very far. They would justify, shouting and doing almost like things that I wouldn't particularly agree with on a human level, and they would justify it with the fact that, well, it's just the body shouting, it's just the body's reactions, and yeah, it is just that. However, there's a responsibility to not cause uh, a lack of harmony in the world on that level as well. So in the past we'd have to go and seek out teachers, and we'd have to be in proximity, and that required us to have money and funds and to live in a certain place, and you had to kind of change and adapt your entire lifestyle if you wanted to just sit with someone for 10 to 20 minutes. But nowadays, we don't have to change a single thing about our personal lives, which is a massive benefit because it's a different life to live in an ashram or in a secluded place. It's like the idea of there's the kind of anecdote story of the guy who goes to the mountain to transcend and get enlightened. And he spends 20 years in complete peace and silence, and there's absolutely no thought in his mind, and he's mastered thoughtlessness, and he's just in an absence of the world, and he's in complete bliss. And then he comes back down from the mountain 20 years later, and someone almost crashes into him in the traffic, and he screams at the guy and tells him and asks him, what on earth are you doing? And then the guy says, what was the point of that 20 years in the mountain? It's that idea of being in a mountain and being secluded does not provoke. It doesn't have the power to provoke the residual traumas and tendencies that living in the common world will provoke within us. If you were born in a mountain, lived in an ashram from when you were born, had absolutely no preconditions that caused any form of separation, and then you went to continue to live in a mountain or come to the city, you probably wouldn't have the same effect. But for people who were born in our world, where there are plenty of preconditions and passed on trauma and all these things, when you go to a secluded place, you're not able to provoke them. They're not able to be provoked. So if you're in a relationship, I'll give you an example of like a relationship. A romantic relationship is a specific pocket of experience, and we have loads of pockets. We have the pocket of business and finances and our capacity to make to create physical energy and to exchange. We have romantic relationships, we have friendships, we have family relationships, particularly with siblings and then with parents, and and various other pockets. So the David says, "Send love to you all." Love right back, David. Thank you. A relationship. So if you're not in a relationship when you go through your spiritual path, let's say that you're in relationships from when you were 15 to 25 years old. Then let's say that you had your spiritual path started at 25. So all your relationships were taking place while you were in ignorance. And then you went through your spiritual path, then you're 35 years old. When you get into a new relationship, your level of maturity will be as though you hadn't had the 10 years of that spiritual path. So you will be doing things pretty much as ignorantly as you were when you were 25 years old or 15 years old for that matter, who knows, right? But the difference would be is that you now have a greater capacity to deal with it. You have a greater capacity to understand it. Ideally, you have more self-compassion, which means that the trajectory of that advancement will be way quicker than if you hadn't had that 10 years, But it doesn't stop the fact that all the things that we deem as ignorant and unawakened and all these things will still come up as though we had never done the spiritual path to begin with. So we have to assume that is the same with all aspects of our life. We have to assume the same with all aspects, with career, with friendships, with family. You see, it's why, the famous quote from Ram Dass that says, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family, right? What he's basically saying is, sorry, you were going to say something?
No, it's amazing. I saw two people also put up their hands. It's amazing. And thanks again for all your videos. It helps a lot. Just another quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully with a quick answer. So I was very religious all my life.
Yeah.
How can I get rid of that quick? Because it's
Yeah,
still
your religiousness,
for
you,
30
you don't
years.
have to get rid of it.
Hmm.
You don't have to get rid of it.
But it's
It's
controlling
almost
my
like,
mind. Yeah, it's not, but subconsciously, when I
All the
indoctrination and stuff. So I
yeah,
don't want to get rid of it, but subconsciously I know that's my core.
yes.
conditioning.
Yes.
So there is a follow-up. There is a follow-up. You don't have to get rid of it, but it dissolves on its own the more you let your true nature bleed into experience. So any phenomenal changes, phenomenal meaning anything that can be perceived as a difference, will change as a result of the understanding on its own. So the priority is to see that you could say that your religious conditioning is just a theme of how you previously sought happiness. It's just a theme. It doesn't make a difference whether it was religious theme, a spiritual theme. You don't want to replace the theme with another theme. You see what I mean? So there can be many differences. The material theme, right? So they're all the same. The essence is this was a path I used to take in order to find happiness. So no matter what type of path that was, it was a path that was seeking happiness in an object in the world. So the trick
Perfect.
is not to, but
I
let me just continue because I think it's
okay.
important. Don't worry, we're not in a rush. So the trick is not to try to walk the path. The trick is to direct your energy towards where happiness truly is. So most people think that you have to end seeking, but the mind won't. The mind doesn't desire to seek. The mind's not an entity that seeks. Seeking is the natural baseline operating system of how the mind moves when we are not experiencing our true nature. Like when we are, you could say, when our true nature is revealed, the natural path of the mind is to come back to itself. So when we're conscious of that, we can say, okay, then, well, if my mind is seeking happiness anyway, why don't I seek it where it actually is? That's a huge, 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 significant turnaround, because then we're conscious of the seeking to the extent we can direct it. Most people, they're conscious of seeking, they don't direct it. They still direct it into the world. It's all unconscious. Yes, I'm a seeker and I'm just still going to do the thing I know isn't where happiness is. You see? It is not logical. Why? Because the intellect hasn't yet been integrated. The intellect hasn't been awakened. That's why it's like, well, I'm going to do something completely illogical. When the intellect's awakened, you will start to do you're kind of your own reason and logic becomes the power. So you can start literally saying, happiness isn't here. So why am I looking for happiness where it isn't? It makes no sense. Then the next question would be, where is happiness? Happiness is in my being. You directly go to your being. And that's basically it. Then you'll forget that. Then you'll do it again. Then you'll forget it and you'll do it again. That process is natural. Forget and recognize, or overlook and recognize. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Saja. I'll have a look
Thank
at
you,
the
Pierre.
video again because
Thank you. Andy,
Yes.
how are you?
Uh, I'm well with a question mark. I'm well.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, thank you for this like direction of this question and answer because it hit me right where I am, which is well, first of all, the reason that I know that I was brought to you was to really be in the grounding and the integration of this process and not being
Hmm.
in the, you know, the whatever it is. Okay, so my question is this. Recognizing a pattern of mine where I am able to show up and I'm in the expression of my true nature with someone. And then after a period of time, and sometimes it varies, sometimes it's very short and sometimes it's quite long, the relationship, I notice that I lose the expression and I go into the seeking within that particular relationship. And then
Hmm.
that's where the relationship essentially tanks or
Yeah,
implodes.
yeah.
And I have a question about this specifically, somebody that I've been in, I felt like I was in a lot of I felt fully present in the expression of it. And
Hmm.
suddenly I needed help within the tangible part of the world. And when I expressed the help, the request for help, this person is an actual practitioner, acupuncturist, and does, kung fu and
Hmm.
a lot of non-dual. And when I expressed where I was, which
Was this
was,
it, just to clarify, so it helps me answer? Is this a romantic connection, or is this a purely platonic?
yeah, it's purely platonic, and we actually labeled our relationship unfriendship because it didn't have we were
Okay.
like always celebrating our unfriendship because we like transcended the bullshit of exchange with friendship, what a good friend does, what a good friend doesn't. And so, as you know, I went through a humongous physical, like I got slammed with
Hmm.
a physical thing. And when I expressed my fear, it was received as rejection. And then it was an outright full on attack. Because I think obviously she felt that her modalities and her way were, our friendship imploded. And so
Mm.
I've been in the grief of that, feeling that. And then I keep getting this thing in my mind is what would love do in this? And there's nothing, I know that anything I say will just deepen the opposition or like I believe any words that I use is going to exacerbate the perception of attack against her. So yeah, I'm feeling the devastation of that. I'm feeling the shock of it that my unfriend slash practitioner, just literally just left me to die, just left me to
Hmm.
die. And so I'm just wondering if you could
Hmm.
speak to that because
Yeah,
whatever I write, I know is going to come across as an attack. And there is some pride too, because I feel like if I just say, I'm sorry, I love you, it doesn't
you
address the
don't feel
fact that
heard.
I'm not heard
Yeah,
and most importantly is I'm not safe. I'm not going to go to
yeah,
somebody where I don't feel safe. So could you speak to
exactly.
that?
Yeah. So, well, the premise of why this has all happened is because the intention of your friendship is an unfriendship. You can't feel safe in an unfriendship. So the intentionality is, so you've got to think of like what would be a really good something, right? A really good something would mean that you have safety. It serves you to its highest purpose. There's a lot of intentionality with it. It's not an unconscious something, right? There's intentionality, there's care, which comes along with that. You care about the thing or the other or whatever it is you're with speaking of. I'm making this general before I make it specific. In essence, there's a lot of energy that you put into it, right? And that energy is always love, right? So there's a lot of love that you put into it. And naturally, on a human level, right, which is the level friendships are on, friendships aren't really cosmic. The connection is cosmic, but the friendship is human. If you want a cosmic friendship, you can't have one because you have to have it as two separate beings. You can't be friends with someone if you are experiencing them as literally the same as you. If you can have the sense that we share the same being, but in order to have a friendship, you predicate it on that understanding, but then you respect each other as two mutually exclusive points of experience, which are as though we are our own individual beings. Which is why the people that we love, they treat us as though we are our own whole, complete entity. Even though we might not be on an ultimate level, it doesn't make a difference. We respect it on that level of reality. That's called compassion. Compassion is to have the ability to appreciate and give respect to and live in a reality that might not be ultimately true. So, in other words, love creates boundaries. And the premise of this relationship had a complete lack of boundaries. And do you know what the number one, the mechanism to create the word we give to when love creates boundaries? Wisdom. So love must be met with wisdom. Otherwise, this love, because what you're experiencing, Andy, was this just love, right? This just love, we're unfriendship, we have no boundaries, we can just unfriend each other and still love each other, like this kind of like trying to keep it all transcendent, right? But it completely lacked the wisdom carried with love, which is what the part of us that create the boundaries again in order to create a purely loving and intentional relationship. Because when you do that, you create lack of intentionality, lack of energy, a lack of love, which is why in the moment you need them most, they're not there, you see?
Now what?
Well, now it becomes a standard, right? So whenever you have a greater realization than the level a relationship is on, right? It means that you have a new, you could say, tolerance for a relationship. So with this woman, you had like, there's no such thing as what's a good or a bad friend. There absolutely is. And if you maintain that belief of what's a good and a bad friend, then you set your standard of friendship very low. You see? And then you will set the standard of every other connection and relationship very low. And when you do that, you prevent yourself and them from growing. You limit the capacity of yourself and the other because you don't hold them to anything. So they can disrespect you, they can do this, they can do that. And I mean, it's actually, but then becomes a lack of self-respect. So now that you have a new idea of a friendship, it now becomes, does this person want to meet me on that level? And if they don't want to meet you on that level, they can't meet you on that level, it's extremely hard to have a friendship with someone because technically what you're saying is, these are the requirements of being my friend. We don't have to be friends, but if we are, these are what they are, right? And if you don't want that, then you don't want to be my friend, right? Or you can't be my friend, or I don't want to be friends with you, in essence. What happens then is that you set a new bandwidth. So you'll start meeting people who meet you on that level, you see? So this person will either become your friend and will grow with you and understand you and respect you on that level and take the step, or they won't take the step, and naturally you don't even have to say anything, that the friendship will come to an end. And this goes to every romantic relationship. That happens in romantic relationships all of the time. Romantic relationships are, one has a greater level of understanding at some certain point. You share that with the other, they grow with you, and you just keep working with that. Eventually, in romantic relationships, the reason romantic relationships end is because one is continuing to do that, continuing to grow, and the other isn't. And eventually you move so far apart, you cannot even communicate anymore. And when you can't communicate anymore, you lose the one quality a relationship needs in order to grow: communication, mutual respect. You see? Thank you, Andy. Hans.
First of all, I see that Swati says here, I have a follow-up question to this. Perhaps this is interesting to do first then.
Oh, thank you, Hans. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans.
Where was this?
Hi, Saja.
You
Can
didn't
you
ask
hear
the
me?
question. Hey, Swati. Yeah, go for it.
Hi. Yeah, I couldn't raise my hand for some reason. I couldn't see the setting for that to come up. Yes, to a follow-up question to what Andy was saying, and actually it's a more broader trying to understand what is this space of okay, to make it personal. Basically, this whole journey can put you in a place where it gets a bit confusing, where the personal aspect of love, which is the human aspect of love, the way we understand it, and then there's the broader kind of acceptance and love, and one keeps on going towards sort of more acceptance, more love. And then the setting of boundaries, what is the paradigm from where that comes? Because it can get a bit blurry, at least it has gotten blurry for me, to set boundaries, because
Yeah,
it's almost like accepting the other as me, and then looking into their world is like from the lens of understanding and being wider than. And then, of course, it is not sustainable, because there's the human element of like, okay, that just doesn't work, or there are parts of me for
absolutely.
whom this is not going to work to continue to extend
Yeah,
beyond a point. But what is the paradigm that allows one to kind of, put it to know that, okay, here's where I can sustain this without, you know, over um overwhelming
overstepping a
myself
boundary.
or overstepping my
Your
own
boundary.
sense of yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what is the paradigm from where that come? I mean, I have a sense of where those
yeah,
boundaries are, but where is
yeah.
it coming from? I'm not very clear. Maybe just
Well, it comes
stepping
from
back.
love. It comes from love.
Okay,
So
self-love.
we have this idea that there's this idea that love doesn't come with intelligence. Love is very intelligent. Like, it is literally the source of intelligence. So love has the capacity to understand all levels, all possibilities, all paradigms, all things. So do you think, imagine love, let's just characterize love for a minute, just to make it easier to understand. Imagine love, right, was observing a couple. Do you think love would let the couple abuse each other? If now pretending, right, pretending that the love is able to intervene, right? Love, we're just being playful here. Pretending love is able to intervene, and the love is observing a couple. Do you think love would allow the conflict of a relationship to perpetuate without any resolution? No, right? Love wouldn't.
No, that's
If love was
interesting.
really
But
there, do you
yeah,
think love would just let the husband abuse the wife? Well, I'm love. I'm all accepting. I guess I've
no.
just got to let this happen, right? Love is smarter than that, right? Love wouldn't just allow that to happen. So we have to think, well, what would love do then? Characterizing love, what would love do? Well, Love wouldn't allow people to harm people. You see, love wouldn't allow something to sacrifice the integrity of something else. Why? Because love, in essence, is a lack of separation. So it's not possible for love to do those things. So now you've got to think the human level is a representation of God. It's a representation. This physical level, think of it like a cartoon. Cartoons, they're like exaggerated manifestations of something real, right? Something's real. We draw a cartoon, we make a cartoon of it. It's like fake, right? Not fake, but exaggerated. So think of life as the exaggerated expression of something, of an infinite, formless, loving being. So the human experience is where those expressions are characterized, literally. They're characterized. We call them characteristics. So invisible white light, right? Right, light is all around me right now, but I can't see it. I can only see it when I put something there. It has the potential for all colors. Then it gets refracted and it looks like colors. But before it's refracted, it's just invisible. You could think of love like this invisible field that then, when refracted through the prism of a finite mind, looks like the colors of courage, respect, kindness. You see, they're all the colors and flavors of love. So the level that it's on is the level of love. It's just love intelligently moving through a different level of experience, namely the human level. So this is why boundaries will always be expressed when love is expressed, because love has courage. The only reason you wouldn't express a boundary is if there was fear of separation. You see, how many of you have ever had that experience? You didn't set a boundary because you were scared of the result. You were scared of that. You were fearing the separation of separating with a boundary. So do you think love can really be separated with a boundary, with a human level boundary? Obviously not, right? Love can't be separated. So do you see how a boundary is a level of intermediary, a level of like intermediary respect? And it's done out of courage, when courage can only ever come from love.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Swati.
Thank you.
Hans.
Yeah, I had a question, and it's now like with this, I have another question. Is like how to deal now with when you let somebody get over your boundary, or you put your boundary, and somebody really came over.
Yeah.
How to deal with this situation then?
Yeah. So if someone oversteps a boundary, there's only two reasons they would do that. The first reason is that they didn't know there was a boundary. The second reason is because they don't respect the boundary.
Mm.
And there's only two reasons that they wouldn't, well, actually, technically, there's only one reason they wouldn't respect your boundary intentionally. It's because they don't respect their own. Or, this is the second reason, they don't have boundaries. So they either don't have boundaries, or they don't respect their own boundaries.
Okay.
So someone only oversteps a boundary out of their own ignorance, in essence.
Mm.
No one has boundaries and respects their own boundaries and then disrespects other people's boundaries. It's not possible. The automatic expression of respecting your own boundaries is to respect others.
Mm.
So it's not possible for there to be. So it can, in other words, it can only really come from ignorance.
Yeah.
So if it comes from ignorance, that's the first understanding. Seeing that. No one does it intentionally. It's not personal. Then the next thing is, okay, then now I understand that. How do I manage that on a human level? What do I actually, what do I do with this information? Type of thing. The thing you do with that information is you communicate. the boundary clearly, and you understand, is it that they didn't know the boundary was there and they do respect boundaries and my boundaries and they just weren't sure? Then you have a beautiful, in fact, those are inevitable in a healthy relationship. That's how you actually build the relationship. The relationship is built on boundaries. The boundaries are how you play. It creates the parameters for play. Think of a park. It's a set of boundaries. Think of a game. It's a set of boundaries. Think of a story. It's a set of boundaries. Boundaries allow us to have fun.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you communicate that and you understand, is it a lack of understanding or is it complete ignorance? If it's ignorance, you'll find it very hard to have them respect your boundaries. If it isn't, then that's an amazing, basically it's either like, this is an amazing opportunity for growth, or this is an opportunity to let this person go. Both are beneficial. Both are great.
Yeah. Okay. My original question was, in fact, recently I'm very busy with thoughts and seeing thoughts, and my meditation is based on thoughts, and I don't understand why I keep believing my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is that? Why do I keep on believing them? It's less and less, because I immediately then ask, okay, is it all true? But it could be an hour, 2 hours that I'm fully still in. And it's like, why do I keep on believing them? And yeah.
Yeah. Well, think about it. When, if someone told you that, let's say someone says Santa Claus is real, why would you believe that? Presumably you believe Santa Claus is real at some point, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So let's use this example. You used to believe Santa Claus is real. Why did you believe he was real?
Because I didn't know anything else.
So you believe Santa Claus is real because you didn't know any better, right?
Yeah.
You just trusted. Someone who does know better told me, right? So you believe that to be true because you outsourced your intellect to somebody with supposedly higher intellect at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So why did you stop believing Santa Claus was real?
Because
Presumably you stopped believing
somebody told
he was real.
Thank you. Since the year I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so why did you
Somebody
stop?
told me. Somebody told me. It's not real.
Somebody told you. Yeah, but I bet you weren't convinced. I wasn't totally convinced when someone first told me. When someone told me everything else, I was like, nah, you can't be serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Something like
was
that.
your real? Do you remember roughly the response?
Mm-hmm.
At first, did you just go from someone said he wasn't real and you just
Then
instantly
asking questions around it. But then what's
exactly
happening, and why does he come, and things like that. Yeah.
exactly
And who
you
is
did
this?
what did you do? What did you actually do? You asked questions, but what were you really doing in that moment?
Being curious about what it is
Being
really.
curious. Exactly. And what else? What did that
Uh,
curiosity express like?
being open as well to,
Yeah,
okay, yes, you tell me that, I'm open to believe something else, but explain me more.
exactly. You investigated
Mhm.
the truth. Before, you didn't investigate. Someone said it. Yep, I guess it's true. But the second time round, you investigated that truth. You didn't just instantly drop the belief, you investigated it. But at first, you still weren't open to it fully. I mean, you were open to the possibility of it being wrong, but you didn't just like let go of the belief, right? You done your research, so to speak. So now apply that to any other belief. You asked me the question, why do you keep believing your thoughts? Why do you think you keep believing your thoughts to be true?
For sure, I haven't questioned them all, but it's like the whole time there's something else, and it's like it's coming from so close to me that it must be true. It's not coming from somebody who's telling me something. It's so close. It's my mind. So if I can't trust my mind, so there's what then? Something
Of
like
course
that.
you can't. Well, here's the thing. Your thoughts aren't really your thoughts. Most of your thoughts aren't your
Okay,
thoughts.
I know. Yeah.
So your thoughts are the ones that we're saying your thoughts. Most of your thoughts are preconditioned. In other words, you think the thoughts other people have previously thought and told you. So it's not necessarily true to assume you can't trust yourself just because your thoughts might be wrong. You better assume all your thoughts are incorrect. If you've built a false model of the world, you have to assume all of the thoughts about the world are wrong. So you're right. You can't trust yourself. The awakening of the intellect is the path to trust yourself again. You have to come to terms with the fact I can't trust myself. If I have previously, the way that I've developed my intellect, previously created a belief that caused all the suffering in my life, you better stop trusting yourself very quickly in terms of that old paradigm. However, now that you know that that is not the way, well, that's a very profound realization. That proves you can trust yourself.
Yeah.
So the question is, what part of yourself can you and can't you trust? Well, you can't just trust the thoughts that base their belief not on direct experience, because that's what has created the old way, which caused suffering, right? You can, however, trust the part of yourself that questions the beliefs that aren't based on your current experience, because that is the exact line of reasoning. That is the one that has made you break free of that loop, you see? So if you're going to invest your eggs in which basket, which one would you invest them in?
Repeat the baskets? Which one?
Yes, if you're going to invest your eggs, it's a saying, which one would you invest them in?
Yeah, but what in which two possibilities?
The possibility, the old paradigm that bases its
There's nothing.
beliefs on not truth, or the one that bases its beliefs on truth?
Yeah, of course, the second one.
Perfect. So the next step, so now you can see the reason you believe your thoughts is because you're still relating to your thoughts from the old paradigm.
Yeah.
You're still relating to your thoughts with the same mindset that convinced you they were real. So now you can, so now you see, I can't trust those thoughts and I can't trust that way of thinking. That's true. But you can trust a new way of thinking that explores the thought, that's curious about the thought, and then investigates the truth of the thoughts.
Yeah.
And you can trust yourself to know and to self-verify which ones are true and which ones aren't. Because you've already done that.
Okay.
You've already verified the old way of thinking doesn't work. You know that.
Yeah.
Which means if you can verify it once, you can verify it again.
Yeah.
So the reason you keep believing your thoughts is because you will keep believing them unless you question the validity of them. And that doesn't happen in one questioning.
Yeah. Okay. Very clear. Yeah. Thanks, Saja.
I sense a reluctancy.
Yeah. But there's a lot coming up. It's like my whole past, so nothing is true. Nothing has been true. What happened even? Because it was all based on beliefs, on thoughts coming up, and then I believed them, and so I went into it. So it's like I could rewrite my whole past.
Technically, you could rewrite your past, but you wouldn't be rewriting your past. You would be seeing your past clearly. It might be the first time you see your past with clarity. And think about it. Imagine you were to really see your past with clarity. What would happen? You would release all the stories, all the trauma, all the preconditions.
All the beliefs, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Okay.
You don't sound very excited.
Yeah, but inside I feel I do. Yeah. Inside I really
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Hans, just to clarify, you don't need to go through every belief you've ever believed. There's only one
That's good.
belief. There's only one belief that creates all those other beliefs. It's the belief that you're a temporary, limited, finite self.
Exactly.
Anytime there's a belief that convinces you of otherwise, it's predicated on the fact that that is what you actually believe. So there's only one belief. Keep tracing it back to the one belief, the belief in separation.
Yeah.
That's the only place to explore.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Hans.
Thank you a lot.
Lean.
Hi, Saja.
Hey, good to
Hi.
speak to you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Nice conversation you had with Hans was, yeah, interesting. But a question came up for me when you were speaking about boundaries. Because this has always been quite a difficult thing for me to think with boundaries. And I think you said something to, I think it was Swati, something like, if somebody doesn't respect your boundaries, then like what I understood is that they're in ignorance about boundaries, about that's what you said, huh?
Well, one of two reasons. Either they don't have boundaries, or they didn't know that you had a boundary with that thing. So they might really care about you and really but they just didn't know there was a boundary there. And if they knew that, they wouldn't have overstepped, you know?
But I noticed that I always had a tendency to not think that, but to think I must be not seeing something clearly when somebody oversteps my boundary. I must be like, and I always had a tendency to do that, to think I must be not seeing something clearly, or like to doubt myself.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to realize that when I heard you speak about that, and then also like recently I've like, for example, I met some people and I went on a couple of dates, and I noticed, like, for example, on one date I was going to, I didn't enjoy it. And I noticed I was like, this person kept on talking and wasn't really showing any interest, and I was irritated. And then I immediately also thought at first, like, oh, I'm probably like having stories and therefore this isn't going well. But then at
And
some
that's
point,
bypassing.
yeah, but at some point I just felt like I just don't like this. I'm not enjoying this, and that's okay. I don't
Yeah,
have to enjoy this date.
exactly.
I can just, but it suddenly was, and I have this more often now recently, like I don't have to keep on doubting myself every time something's not going well. Sometimes it's just like I don't like it, or I don't enjoy this, or
Yeah.
this is not what I want. And in a way, suddenly these kind of things seem simpler now somehow. It's like I do know what feels good. I do know what I want. I know it very clearly. And why would I accept something that I don't like the whole time? That's completely insane in a way.
Yeah, you're
Like,
right. Yeah.
so I'm not sure if it's really a question, but that came up because it's yeah.
Well, it's on one level it's insane. On another level, what it really is a developmental stage. It's a development of really, really understanding our own boundaries, our own desires, our own life, really. Like every what it's like life is just pure abundance. And sometimes because of that, well, what do you want out of that abundance? You know what I mean? Like you have to have something. You either choose the worst or you choose the best. You see? Worst is just simply whatever isn't the best. Now, the question is, what is the best? That the best is relative. The best doesn't necessarily mean everybody's best, right? Like the example I've used before. So for some people, the best is to fly on an airplane. Some people, the best is first class. For some people, the best is a private jet. The best is always the best, relatively speaking, depending on the person, right? So if we live from abundance, the question in all areas of our lives, the question is, what is the best? Because I'm not just going to intentionally choose the worst. You see what I mean? It makes no sense. Like you rightly just said, it makes no sense to pursue the worst option for myself, right? That would be lowering our boundaries, so to speak. So, and it can also come because we don't know what the best is for us. You know what I mean? Like we don't yet see like what is the best for me in this moment. We're not really sure. We're still developing that. So this is why, like you said, like going on dates and exploring, you know, for me right now, I'm still deciding what is the best for me to live. Like, where is the best? For me, living in the UK and in the place places I've lived is not the best for me. I just don't prefer it, right? So, you know, I'm in creation mode. So, you know, with what you were sharing, I think it's extremely necessary to we want to have preferences, but we just don't want to be attached to those preferences in order to be happy. And sometimes we can try and persist through something that isn't to our preference for so long because we think it is me just finding happiness in that thing, so therefore I should persist through it. You know, maybe or like when I worked in the watch shop. Oh, I don't want to work in this job anymore, but I'll stay because if I leave, it's just me seeking happiness. I'm just suffering and I should just do more spiritual work to stay in the job because then I'd be able to, you know, be happy forever after and I can work in the watch shop forevermore, right? That makes no sense, right? If I was free and happy, I would willingly have left the watch shop because I wouldn't have been scared of the unknown.
Yeah,
I would have.
Sorry to interrupt. That's what I think what I felt.
Exactly. That's what I'm. Yeah.
Yeah, I realize it now when you say it. It's like, I don't need to accept this because, like, I guess maybe I just felt like this isn't. Why would I do that? In fact, for whom? Like, there's no reason to do this, to accept things that I don't like.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yes.
I can also be
Exactly.
my own. It's not something that I need to have. I mean, I would like it, but I don't need to have it. And if I have it,
Yeah.
then I want it to be the best. And if I want it to be something good, I mean, why else would I do it?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's nice. That's
Yeah.
like a bit what I feel now, or I can see it a bit clearer.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, it's like such an interesting. It's an old-fashioned idea to not have preferences. You know what I mean? Like this idea that we shouldn't have boundaries and preferences and desires. This is like old spirituality. This isn't. When I say old, it's very likely like a miscommunicated idea because whoever was saying that definitely had preferences. They had preferences that people hear that sentence. If they didn't have a preference for anybody to hear that, they wouldn't have written a book. They wouldn't have done anything. They would say have a preference, right? The preference was they chose to write it instead of speak it. They chose to speak it and write it. They chose tea over coffee, right? How could you make a decision if you don't have preferences? You know?
Yeah.
The decision you always make will always be the preference. So it's just about how many preferences can you have? Like this is kind of like a beautiful way that I like to see the world is like how many preferences, how many desires can I express and fulfill that are genuinely good for me and the rest of the world that I don't depend on for happiness.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You know,
That sounds very free, in fact.
it's, you know, it's the definition of an overflowing cup.
Mm.
You know, and sometimes we think the cup needs to be filled. It doesn't. The cup needs to be overflowing. We don't just want a full cup. We want an overflowing cup.
Yeah.
Thank you, Liam.
Thank you so much, Saja.
Mark says, I think a lifetime of wants and needs that came out of trauma makes it hard to give ourselves permission and trust ourselves to have genuine wants and desires. Absolutely. Yeah, give ourselves permission is also a huge thing. There's because it also comes back down to deserving power, which is something I talk about in the creative abundance workshops that I do. Is this idea of, you know, what do we deserve at the highest level? Do I deserve this? Do I deserve that? Like, what do I deserve? My take is that we deserve the best. It makes no sense to think of deserving less, but then in the implications of that, like living the implications of that truth is another ball game that requires the energetic system to be ready to take them steps. It's a whole process unto itself, you know. And this is where unconditional happiness comes in, is that we have then the willingness to have the courage to take those steps because we're not depending on anything for happiness, which makes the process a lot more seamless, you know, naturally. But it doesn't stop the feelings, the challenge of doing it, the courage it might take, you know, the risk, you know, the feeling of that, of risk. You know, I can guarantee no one's ever taken a risk that has been an actual detriment to their life on an ultimate level, that no one's taken a risk that has ever actually been a disservice to their life. Risk is literally just the feeling we have when we're not fully accustomed to moving into the unknown. The more comfortable we are of moving into the unknown, the feeling of risk is not there, because we have moved into the unknown so often that we know there's no risk. So you don't get that feeling. Your nervous system is accustomed to moving into the unknown. So the feeling of risk, we usually associate it with, like, risk means there is something I can lose. No, that's the feeling we have of moving into the unknown. It's the fear. If I move in a direction where I don't have clarity, then I might lose something I might need. But that never ever happens. Khalil? We'll go with Khalil and then we'll finish up for today.
Oops,
Hey,
perdão.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Saja. Sorry, English is not my native
Thank you,
language.
Mark.
I'm Brazilian. I've been in this path for quite some time, to be honest. I've never participated in a community like this. But my question is simple. Ever since I entered this spiritual path, I had a few glimpses, and when you live this understanding in a way that is the devotional, is fun and etc., life begins to flow in a certain way self.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, once the ego see this, it starts to use truth as a way to win at life. And I struggle a lot with this. Watching your videos, I see that we have to have fun and have curiosity in this path. But when I try to have curiosity and have fun, I see myself thinking second intentions. You know, I see myself trying to use this fun, this curiosity, so that I can reach something. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what bugs me the most, because I don't. It's hard for me to not have second intentions in this path, if I've been brutally honest with
Yeah.
me. So that's my question. How can you make the inquiry and the fun and the curiosity genuine?
So there's only really one intention. The intention is happiness. And happiness is the nectar of truth. So we're like bees seeking the hive of truth, looking for the, no, that doesn't even make sense. We're like bees looking for the flower of truth to take the nectar, in a sense. The problem is that we think that we're looking for the nectar in the wrong places. So have you ever genuinely been curious, like as a child?
Yeah, I did.
So your curiosity is something that is already innate. Now, yes, you're right. It's very easy for you to hijack your own curiosity and be like, "Ooh, if I'm curious enough, I might understand the nature of reality. My suffering will be gone forever and ever, and I'll get to remove my suffering."
Yeah,
The
that's
mechanism is to be, yeah, is to be interested in your experience in the way you were when you even realized that. You wouldn't have realized that if you weren't genuinely curious. You
yeah.
see? So you wouldn't be asking the question if you weren't curious. That question doesn't come from the fact you want to remove suffering. It comes from the fact you're genuinely interested. So keep doing whatever you did when you asked this question and when you realized you were doing that in the first place. That's interesting. That's interesting energy. That's curious energy. That's energy that took you out of the mechanism of seeking and you could say impurifying your desire.
Do you think that the second intentions and the hidden motives behind when you do this is a problem, or is a problem only if you see it as a problem?
Well, it's definitely, it's not, it's a, so it's an interesting thing because it's only a problem when you're not aware of it. But when you're not aware of it, it's not a problem because you're just loving life, enjoying it, doing what you want to be doing anyway. When you are aware of it, it's not a problem because you've instantly solved the problem. Being aware of it is solving it. So it's never a problem and it's always a problem, paradoxically at the same time. But ultimately, it's never a problem because you're either not aware of it to begin with in order to render it a problem, or you're aware of it, which instantly solves the problem.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
It's what I'm getting from this is that you have to be curious about the the hidden motives, so that you
Yeah,
can catch it when your ego starts to trying to use truth as a way to get something.
exactly. So when you break it down, it literally just looks like being aware of whatever it is I'm actually doing. That's the essence of it. Being aware of what I'm doing. Who doesn't want to be aware of what they're doing? Hands up, who doesn't want to know what they're doing? Everyone wants to be aware of what they're doing, right? So do you notice that that's also another way of saying to be very conscious of what I'm doing? It's also another way of saying to be very present with what I'm doing. It's also another way of saying to be very intentional with what I'm doing.
I one thing I started to use to deal with this is ask to myself internally, why am I doing something? So that I can honestly answer to myself if there is something, some hidden motives. For example, if I'm pursuing something, I ask myself, why am I doing this? And then if there is have some uh, there is some hidden motives behind my actions, I can see that. So that
Exactly.
solves the problem.
Exactly. Yeah. So notice that that's you caring about your life. That's you caring about what you're doing. You're caring about and you're curious about it. They're all the same thing. You know, if you care about something, you're curious about it. If you're curious about something, you care about it. So, and it's also you being intentional and present with your life. So all of this energy, notice that it has its own energy. It's its own quality. That's love. That love is interested. Love is curious. Love cares. That energy is literally pure love. You have access to that. We all have access to that at every single given moment, which is why I say the true path begins with curiosity. You see? So the path isn't linear. You come and go off the path. Well, you slip into being unconscious. You try to remove your suffering. You seek in the world. Then you get curious again, like you just did. Oh, I just noticed that I was doing this. You've come back to love. You notice the pattern. You care about your intentional and conscious about where your energy's going and what you're doing. Right? That's love, pure loving care, intentionality. You know, you desire truth. That is also akin to desiring truth. You desire to be understanding of where you're going with your energy and what you're doing with your life. So that's why curiosity isn't just curiosity. It's literally to see with the eyes of God.
God is curious.
Awesome. Thank
Thank you,
you,
Saja.
Khalil. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you very, very soon.